Hey everyone, thank you so much for being here with me. Last November, Dawn Michelle from Boho Tarot posted a video where she talked about how she finally added 4 of the kind of classic RWS inspired decks to her collection. So the OGs, if you will, we're talking Morgan Greer, Hanson Roberts, Robin Wood, and the Aquarian Tarot. So I had commented on her video that I also did not own any of these decks because, similar to some of her sentiments, I just kind of assumed that they would always be readily available. And so there was really no immediacy for me to run and buy any of these decks. And then maybe a week after that video, I received a surprise package with those 4 decks and some other sweet gifts from my fairy god librarian, Queen Osset. She is a sly fox, that one. And she said, hey, keep those decks for as long as you want. Take your time working with them, see how they are for you. And so from November till now, I have been spending time with these decks, and I thought I would share my experiences. So let's start off with the Hanson Roberts. I really like this back. I love the size of the deck. It's small, but not too small. And so it's really easy for my small hands to handle. It shuffles really well. The cardstock is great. This was a deck that I had some reservations about. I was curious about it, but I wasn't sure how I was going to feel about, this banner here with the different titles in the titles in the different languages. And I also wasn't sure if I would jive with the illustrations. But I found that the banners did not bother me one bit, and that the illustrations, this is not a favorite of mine, but the illustrations really charmed me. With their, the colors and these kind of sketch-like quality. And I read in the little white book that these were all done by colored pencil, which I think is just really impressive. It demonstrates such skill, and I think it charmed me to the deck even more. So I, like with that magician image, some of the body scale or like the body proportions feel a little off sometimes, but not a deal breaker. And really, other than that, I can't say that there are any images that I am really put off by. And this deck was a great reader for me. I didn't have any problems. And, spoiler alert, I didn't have any problems with any of the decks. Like, I kind of knew off the bat that I could read with any of these decks. It was whether I would like reading with any of them. So I found that this was a surprise for me, that I really like. Okay, so for this one, I just feel like the I don't know, the scaling feels off, but maybe that's just my perspective. In any case, aside from that, again, not a deal breaker. I did really just find this to be a pleasant surprise. I really enjoyed working with it. This was great. Paired with Robin Wood, actually. I did work with those two together sometimes with some readings, and paired the two, and they were lovely together. So speaking of the Robin Wood, here are the backs. I do like the backs. Once again, cardstock is really great. Shuffled like a dream. This one I did talk about in a VR I did to Candy over at Candy Soul and Soil. She did a tag called Dating the Tarot. And I chose this as my slow burner deck. You know, it took me a little time to warm up to. I think the imagery is pretty, and I certainly love, again, the colors. But, you know, of course, as with any deck, there are some images that you really like, and then some that are just, let me start off with some images that are just, So here we have the Hierophant, and also the Four of Pentacles. And I would say the reason these two weren't like my favorites is because of their just kind of severe expressions. I don't like it when my Hierophant and my Four of Pentacles look so kind of severe and off-putting. Apparently, blondes have more fun. Another distraction for me, which again wasn't a deal breaker, is, for instance, you know, the color scheme of the Wands suit, very yellow. And I don't mind bright colors. I love bright colors, but something about this particular yellow was a bit OTT, but again, still not a deal breaker. Ron Weasley, that's all I can see. I don't hate it. I just see Ron Weasley from Harry Potter. Can't help it. And then finally, I personally feel that this baby in the Sun card grows up to be this guy in the Nine of Cups. Am I right? Now let's talk about some images that I really, really loved. So, Queen of Swords, beautiful. I have a personal connection with the Queen of Swords. I identify a lot with her, and so I just love the butterflies on her gown. Just love the airy quality. Love this High Priestess. You know, often we see the High Priestess depicted as kind of enigmatic and maybe even a little cold and standoffish, but she just seems so warm and approachable. One of my favorite lovers cards, I want to say, in any deck I've seen, which is surprising. I don't know what it is about this particular image. You know, maybe it's that, again, you've got beautiful color scheme. You've got this couple who are just like, they're naked and free, and there's just this very kind of balanced sense, this harmony of the masculine and the feminine together. So I really, really like this card. One of my favorite Fool cards ever. I love their costume. Again, the bright colors. I love how they are kind of dancing on their tiptoes and, you know, playing their flute, or what is that, recorder? I don't know what that is. But yeah, just, and the backdrop, you know, you feel like you're in a scene from The Sound of Music or something. But I loved everything about this. And, you know, the Fool card is usually just a whatever card for me. It's just one that it's like, okay, whatever. In any deck, I don't have necessarily like the biggest connection with the Fool card. And I love this Death card. Now we have the Morgan Greer. And I have to say, out of all these decks, I was most excited to try this one out. Here are the backs. I know they're iconic. They're okay. I don't love them. I don't hate them. You know, just whatever. God, this Nine of Cups. I'm not a fan. I just, yeah, it's fine. We'll just leave it at that. Ten of Swords. Not a fan of that one either. But, you know, overall, I would say this is another deck where the images were fine. Like, there weren't any images that I could not absolutely stand. I really love the colors. I love how the lines are just very solid and clear. I don't mind the porn stashes at all. You know, when I first started working with this deck, that spark was immediately there, right? And then funny enough, you know, the more I worked with it, spark died. It faded really quickly. I was kind of taken aback by that because I really thought we were gonna have something. And it's not that it was a bad deck. I mean, all of these decks are great. There's a reason why they're all considered OGs and classics, right? So in terms of the readings I received, not a problem. I don't know why the romance died so quickly. It's a good deck. And then finally, we have the Aquarian Tarot. Again, good cardstock. Like, all of these decks have fabulous cardstock, actually. The backs are okay. I like the design of the back. I don't think the color is very suitable. I don't think it matches well, and I know that other people have said that. This was a deck that, you know, behind the Morgan Greer, I was curious about this one too. I thought that I would really like this one, just because I do like the Art Deco style. I do like the use of white juxtaposed to the color palette, the softer colors. And again, the images are clear, you know, recognizable in terms of the kind of traditional imagery that has inspired each of the images in this deck. I had no spark, like none whatsoever. This was like the only deck where, like, in the whole time that I worked with it, I really just didn't feel all that much. And don't get me wrong, there were images that I really love in this deck. So for instance, you know, just something like this, so beautiful to me, absolutely beautiful. And even the Four of Rods, like, I could hang this on my wall. Definitely would want this on my wall. Same with the moon. Like, these are all, again, these iconic images that we are familiar with and so beautiful. And I think this deck is an example of something that Clary from Shadow Moon Tarot once said in a comment to me, which is that, you know, sometimes the images that we find so beautiful, and I'm paraphrasing here, but, you know, sometimes the images that we find so beautiful and want to hang up on our wall don't make for a good deck. You know, so just because we think that we're going to love all the images, or, you know, just on that kind of surface level, we really like what we see, it doesn't necessarily mean that that's enough to make the deck work, right? And I know so many of us have been through that experience, and this was an example of that for me. And I think another thing for me was the, while I liked the white in the background, in the atmosphere of each image, I didn't necessarily like the white of the faces, the kind of colorless faces, which initially I didn't think would bother me at all. I just really didn't think anything about it. But as I worked with the deck, I don't know. That might have been a stumbling block. I know some people have said that this deck is cold. I did not find it cold. I just found it very neutral. It was kind of a neutral read. I didn't dislike it. And once again, messages came out very clearly for all these decks. It's just, did I have that spark? Did it, you know, did it conjure that tingle and that feeling of just, you know, whether you get a shitty message from a deck or a good message, that all around you still really like that deck, right? And so this deck, I didn't I didn't hate it. I just didn't love it. And I like it. Do I like it? I don't know. I mean, it's okay. So to summarize, these are all fabulous decks. There is a reason that they have withstood the test of time. The imagery is familiar. It's clear. They make great learning tools for newbies. They read very well for me. I didn't have any problems. I think what surprised me was that, you know, out of all of them, I truly thought that I had a great chance of connecting with the Morgan Greer and a decent chance of connecting with the Aquarian. And over the time that I worked with them, I found that I actually preferred the Hanson Roberts and the Robin Wood. And perhaps that is because I really didn't have any expectations of either of those two latter decks. And so they were relationships that kind of built more slowly, relationships that were forged more slowly and therefore are maybe stronger. I don't know. So I would kind of I would rate them as, you know, I liked the Hanson Roberts, I think the best, you know, followed by the Robin Wood and then Morgan Greer and then finally the Aquarian. But I really did value working with all of them. And I think that I'm going to give it some time and see if the Robin Wood and the Hanson Roberts call to me again. And if I feel so inclined, you know, if I miss them over the next months, then I will certainly add them to my collection permanently. So once again, I would like to thank Queen Osset. You are the bestest librarian ever. And I would love to hear your thoughts. Do you own any of these decks? Did you learn on any of these decks? What have your experiences been? So please do drop a comment below. As always, I hope you're doing well. For those of you living in Texas, I hope you're hanging in there. I know it's been rough and I feel for you and I'm thinking of you all. So stay safe and hopefully you will find some resolution soon. I know you must be so frustrated. And I'm sending you big virtual hugs. So until the next video, much love and take care.